Pokemon GO's annual Fashion Week is happening from November 15th at 10 a.m. to November 19th at 8 p.m. local time, and with it we are getting new avatar items that look pretty good, 2x catch candy and an increased chance for Candy XL if you are level 31 or above, a collection challenge for the costume Pokemon, which gets you an encounter with the new Dragonite with the costume, which can be shiny Gothita for the first time in Pokemon GO, and Wooper with the costume, which can evolve into Quagsire with the costume for the first time. And Wooper can also be shiny, which means you can get a shiny Quagsire with the costume, which if you get one with good PvP IVs, you could use for the Great League. There are of course lots of other Pokemon during this event, so let's get into the wild spawns first. As previously mentioned, we are going to have Wooper with the costume, which can evolve into Quagsire with the costume. We're also going to have Pikachu with the costume, Diglett with the costume, Croagunk with the costume, Gothita, which can be shiny for the first time in Pokemon GO, Female Frillish, Furfrou, and Mareanie. There will also be rare spawns for Absol with the costume and the male Frillish. All of them except for Mareanie can be shiny, so there is lots of shiny hunting to do. And if you're like me and you enjoy the costume Pokemon, then this is a really great event to get out and hunt some rare shinies. Next, let's talk about the raids. In 1-star raids, we'll have Diglett with the costume, Wooper with the costume, Sneasel with the costume, and Furfrou. 3-star raids will have Butterfree with the costume, Dragonite with the costume, Kirlia with the costume, and Absol with the costume. That does mean that this year we are not getting the costume Kirlia in the wild, so if you want to hunt that one, you're going to have to do it in the raids, unfortunately. It still also cannot evolve into Gardevoir or Gallade, so if you were hoping for that this year, unfortunately we're still out of luck. But if you still need to work on your Rising Star medal, this could be a good chance to get out there, do some raids for Pokemon species that you haven't done before, and get some more progress on that medal. Next up, let's talk about the eggs, because for this event we will get special 5-kilometer eggs with event-themed hatches. So from those 5-kilometer eggs, you are going to get Pichu with the costume, Wooper with the costume, Smooshum with the costume, Shinx with the costume, and Gothita with a boosted shiny rate, probably 1 in 64. So if you are hunting that new shiny Gothita, that could be a good way to do it. With the event, we will also have event field research tasks, all of which will give an encounter with certain Pokemon. We'll have catch 5 Pokemon for an encounter with Blitzel, which can be shiny, catch 10 Pokemon for an encounter with either Wooper or Kirlia with their costume, catch 15 Pokemon for an encounter with Butterfree, take a snapshot of your buddy with an encounter with Diglett with the costume, and finally take snapshots of 7 different wild Pokemon for an encounter with Shinx with the costume. So again, if you're shiny hunting the Pokemon, definitely keep an eye on your field research tasks and filter through for the event ones, because they will get you a bunch of extra encounters. There is also paid timed research available in the shop to purchase for $2 USD or equivalent price in your local currency. It has a set of catch tasks, berry tasks, and snapshot tasks, all of which get you encounters. And because the IV floor is higher for Pokemon that you get from research, you have a higher chance of getting Hundos and therefore also Shundos from this. You get another Dragonite encounter at the end, and then you also get 2 premium battle passes. Getting those 2 passes means you are technically getting your money's worth out of this research. Given all these Pokemon that will be available, you might be wondering which are the most meta relevant for either PvP or as raid attackers. We'll go over that now, although I will say Fashion Week is a lot of times more about collecting the costume Pokemon, but there are still some really good meta relevant ones here, and it could be fun to throw them into PvP or into raids with their costumes, especially if they're shiny. So let's go over the most meta relevant Pokemon during this event. Wooper is ranked number 17 in the Little Cup, although the Shadow is ranked higher at 14. Quagsire is ranked number 32 in the Great League. Again, the Shadow does rank higher at number 24. And because Quagsire just got that new move update with the recent Community Day, if you do get a good one for PvP, you probably want to save it until Christmas, evolve it then, and you'll get the Community Day move. We also have Jellicent, which is ranked number 34 in the Great League and number 24 in the Ultra League. Toxicroak is number 129 in the Great League and number 80 in the Ultra League. Toxapeck is number 94 in the Great League, but sees more play in some limited metas, so you definitely want to watch out for some good PvP IVs for those ones. Next up we have Sneasel. Weavile with the costume is not yet available, so that means if you have a Sneasel with the costume, you can't evolve it into Weavile yet. However, like has happened before, they might release the evolution with a costume, which means if you do get a good Sneasel during this event, you can save it and evolve it into Weavile later. And you might want Weavile because it is a good dark type and ice type raid attacker. Luxray with the costume also isn't available yet in Pokemon GO. However, just like Sneasel, if it is released later and you have a high IV Shinx that you want to use as an electric type raid attacker, then you can save it and evolve it when that costume Luxray comes out. There's also Kirlia with the costume in the raids, and like I mentioned before, Gardevoir and Gallade with the costume are not available yet, but again will likely become available in the future, so you might want a good IV male and female Kirlia so that you can evolve them into Gardevoir and Gallade later. Gallade's Mega is not yet available in the game, but no doubt it will be coming soon. Absol also has a Mega in the game, so you might want to hunt a good IV Absol with the sunglasses so that you can Mega that one. And finally, that leaves us with Dragonite. Now, Dragonite is good in all the leagues and is also a good raid attacker, so you might want to get yourself 2 Dragonites with PvP IVs and one with really high IVs to use in the Master League and as a raid attacker. Those are the top Pokemon to hunt that are meta relevant, but if like me you also like to collect the rarest Pokemon, then your interest might be a little bit different. There is of course some overlap here because that shiny Dragonite with the costume is new. It is not available in wild spawns. It is only available in the research, the collection challenge, and the raids, meaning that it will be a very rare shiny to have. So that could be a good one to hunt if you're going after the rarest shiny costume Pokemon. Shiny Gothita is also going to be pretty rare as it's making its debut in Pokemon GO during this event. So if you want a shiny Gothita that has the date tag during the event, definitely get out and hunt that one. You can also hunt it in the 5-kilometer eggs. And finally, we have Wooper with the costume, which will be making its debut during this event. And given that it can be shiny, a shiny Wooper with the costume will also be very rare. You can hunt it in the wild, in eggs, and in raids. I would stick mainly to the wild. It doesn't have a boosted shiny rate in the eggs, and doing it in the raids is a pretty expensive way to do it, given that it should be pretty easy to find out in the wild. The only way that I would really consider doing a raid for Wooper during this event is if I hadn't previously done one and I wanted to do that for the Rising Star Medal. Given that there's some rare and very meta relevant Pokemon spawning during this event, let's go over some candy tips. You can of course use pineapple berries and silver pineapple berries. However, I generally save my silver pineapple berries for the rarest, usually Pokemon that you have to raid for because that's the hardest to get candies for. However, if you do have a bunch of them burning a hole in your bag, you could use them for some of the Pokemon during this event. You can of course also Mega a Pokemon of the same type as the one you want to get candies for, and that will help you get more candies. In this event, I think Mega Gyarados is definitely the best one as it covers basically all the meta relevant Pokemon that are available during this event. And finally, the Fashion Week event does have a boosted candy and candy XL rate from catching Pokemon. So really, the best way to get the most candy, as always, is just get out there and keep catching. There will also be showcases for Gothita and Marini during this event, so save your largest of those 2 Pokemon to enter into the showcases. I've also got a few tips here to help you do the best in these showcases. Number 1, go to Pokestops that are outside of major playing areas. This could mean going to rural Pokestops. That will be your best chance at getting the highest ranking in a showcase. However, not everybody can do that. So if you live in a busy area and you can't travel to go to rural showcases, what I would suggest is finding the Pokestop showcases that are not in the major play areas. Generally, this means Pokestops that are not close to large clusters of other Pokestops and gyms. One of the nice things about this is Pokestops that are showcases are always showcases. So once you find those few, you can keep using them every time a showcase comes up. And because they are in the less traveled areas, less trainers will put their Pokemon in these showcases, which gives you a higher chance of winning the showcase. Don't put your largest Pokemon in the first showcase you come across. When you come across a showcase, put a Pokemon of that type in the showcase, but not necessarily your largest. You can do that for up to 3 showcases, and then you can look at how competitive each showcase is and how many points you need to win each showcase. And that means you can save your biggest for the most competitive. My final tip for this, if you don't know, you can swap Pokemon into showcases once you have a Pokemon in them, even if you aren't close to them. What this means is you can wait until the showcase is about to end, and then right before it ends, go look at all your Pokemon in each of the showcase and put in your best one for that showcase to get as high as you can. And this gives you the best chance of getting the highest ranking in those showcases, getting you the most items, and hopefully getting some #1 spots so that you can work on that showcase medal as well. All right, friends, those are my top tips for the 2023 Fashion Week event. If you have any tips, please share them with the community in the comments down below. Also, let me know, what are your top hunts for this event? Subscribe for more Pokemon GO content, and if you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like. If you want more Pokemon GO, check out the video I selected for you on the left, or the one that YouTube selected for you on the right. See you in the next one.
Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. I've got something incredibly funky.